What's going on, guys? How are you? It's 6 days until the season starts. It's Sunday night here in Jersey City. Season is just 6 days away for Roma. And for the other teams, they start off on Saturday. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today, guys. 5 players, according to journalist Nicolo Schira, who tends to be pretty reliable, honestly. Never got into the different journalists and stuff, but Di Marzio and Nicolo Schira tend to be two guys who, when they report, I kind of listen to what they have to say. Interesting stuff. It is nice to see everybody. What's up, Tajen? And we're going to really be talking about those 5 players that Roma wants, that Jose is asking for of this side, that Thiago Pinto is working to get. We're also going to take a look at some tweets and the Serie A calendar as well. In total, some of the other teams, some of the other moves that have been made today and in the past few days. It seems like there's going to be a lot of deals and a lot of energy at the very last minute. That's what I'm getting. You're talking about 5 players perhaps for Roma coming in with the season starting in less than 7 days for them. Of course, these players who come in are not going to have full preseasons. They're not going to have any friendlies under their belt. But speaking of friendlies, what's up, Kier? What's up, Caddy? Speaking of friendlies, Roma did pretty well yesterday against Partizan Tirana of Albania, and they end up winning 2-1. And that only goal from Tirana comes in the last 10 minutes because Jose did something interesting. You saw him take off Awar, and then he didn't put anyone on in his place. Is that a signal to management? Like, you got to go and get me the guy right now? I don't necessarily think like that. People make Jose out to be more cynical than he is. I think it's a matter of the fact that he didn't want to overexert who's going to become his link from the midfield to the attack. That's what I'm thinking of what he was thinking there. So I don't think it was this game plan by Mourinho to ruffle feathers and send a message. I think he was just doing a smart thing, which was by not exhausting Award with a week to go until the first match. So here we go. We've got a couple interesting comments in here off the bat before we break into who those 5 players are going to be. Sven's in here. Sven, man, you got to tell me, Swedish or where else? You got to be Scandinavian, right? Tell me. I want to know where everyone's from, by the way. Write in which country you're watching from right now, or country of origin if you're, if you moved, whatever. So he says, I need Renato Sanchez in Roma. Would be such an amazing signing. I love Renato Sanchez. I thought he was super Danish, Denmark. Okay, there you go. By the way, I met Danny Agger. I went to his restaurant in Liverpool about 12, 13 years ago, and he took me and my buddy out, and we went to his restaurant in Liverpool when he was playing for them. So Danish national team, because of Danny Agger, has a special place in my heart. Renato Sanchez. Man, when he won that Euro, I think he was 18 years old. And of course, you can't mention him without the fact that there is an injury history. On the last episode, or second to last episode, we took a look at that injury history, and we see that it's been a hamstring, it's been MCL, it's been this muscle, whatever, and that Renato missed about half the season. He missed about 18 games last season for PSG, or I should say half a season's worth. And with that, it's a risk for sure. But on the flip side, if he does stay fit and he is available to give Roma half a season, 3/4 of a season, then Roma will be loaning in a phenomenal midfielder, one of the most technical in European football, in all of football, we should say. Somebody who's versatile, who can add to the offense, who can make a tackle, who can break the press, who has that brain to open up the pitch just as well as Awar can. So having someone who can also help in those offensive responsibilities, make the offense click. He'll have somebody, he'll have a fellow countryman in Rui Patricio, and of course, Jose. And I think that's very important to helping players settle in. I think that Renato could be a major coup. It could be a major deal and a major success for Roma. A player who I'm very curious about seeing him play on the pitch, and not just curious, but looking forward to as well. It looks like the deal is just about closed if we're going to believe everything that's been picking up. And it looks probable, and it makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. on top of that, the one thing that I read about him recently is what his Benfica coach said about him was that when he came to him, he was a street baller, not necessarily the most disciplined in position and zone and stuff like that, but somebody who had that style and that flair about him. And I love players like that. If you're from my generation, you grew up or older, you grew up watching Ronaldinho play, and that's someone who made you love football, didn't it? Because he had that street sense. He could go anywhere in the world and play. He could take on the best defenders, no matter if they were coached at Ajax or whatever academy you want to pick. He would go out there, play his game, and dominate. That's kind of what Renato does. And yes, at a young age, won the Euros. That's when the one where Ronaldo went out in the first half. I think the first 25 minutes, right? He got injured. And that was a heck of a final. And Renato played a big part in that. So from a young age, he knows what it takes to go on, to win, to be successful. Okay, let's get to some other comments as we're talking about him. Dajen says he's happy that Roma did not get Scamacca nor Mauro Icardi. I'm curious, how come you do not want Scamacca? Because maybe you wanted Morata, maybe you wanted a winger. Okay. Dajen says, great signing for Paredes. We need a passer. And Dajen is actually from Oman, Muscat, Oman. Very cool, very cool. Paredes, the second player we should talk about tonight. Yeah? So I want to take a look at Paredes' career because, of course, we know that he was a Roma player in the past, but, he also just won a World Cup too, and he was pretty important to that Argentinian side. I'm going to bring up some statistics here of him. I'm going to share my screen. Probably sick of looking at me by now. So let's do that where we got him. Very good. Okay. So Argentina, of course, Boca Juniors starts off in their youth team, if I'm not incorrect. Let's scroll up here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think we need Wikipedia to rely on for that. But anyway, as time goes on in his career, scrolling back up here, he makes a loan move to Chievo, and then he gets bought by Roma. And from Roma, he plays 37 games in total and scores a couple goals, and he's still raw. I mean, 2016, or I should say 2014, when he joins, that's 9 years ago. So he was only 20 years old. He was a young guy, a young man at that point. So that's something to consider when we criticize or consider how his first stint at Roma did. And then from there, he goes to Zenit St. Petersburg for 40 million euros, potentially rising to 47 million. So that was a big deal from when he goes to PSG from Zenit. And even when he goes from Roma to Zenit, that was a big deal. I'm going to say that was a Spalletti move. I think when Spalletti went to Zenit, he brought Paredes, that was his boy, along with him. Not surprising, kind of reminiscent of Pizarro, who was so important to Spalletti during his first tenure in Rome, kind of the regista who pulled the strings. And that's definitely something which Paredes could offer Roma now. Is he somebody who could sit in front of the defense, string those passes, string those balls, and then if you have Sanchez in front of him and Aouar or Pellegrini more box-to-box with Aouar and those guys doing a little bit more heavy lifting, Paredes will be free to make those killer passes. And as we saw in the 2022 World Cup, that he's got that defensiveness in him too. He can win the ball back, whether by his feet, maybe not so much header. I think he's definitely a ball-playing defensive midfielder or foot playing. I don't think I'm looking for the right terminology here, but someone who'd rather do it with his feet rather as opposed to with his head. So he's been at PSG since 2019, and last season he goes out to Juve. I don't think it worked too hot for him in Torino, but by PSG, I mean, he was a year after signing there, he was wearing the captain's armband, and that says a lot. The other personnel that PSG has, Marquinhos, at one point Thiago Silva. So they had so many excellent players, yet look who was wearing the armband, and that's an excellent indicator, I think, of the personality that Paredes could bring. So I'm really looking forward to that. Kier says, back to Aouar being subbed off. Mourinho took him off to play 10 versus 10 as the other team tried to sub a player on that they had subbed off. Okay, I see. So that's why I saw a clip of the one player looking confused. So they couldn't do it. That makes sense. I'm glad Mourinho did that. He's like, it's a friendly, just play fair. Leo's in from Brazil. What's up? What's up? The Jen says, we got to get Marcos Leonardo. I like how he's pushing to come. So there's like this report now that he could possibly be looking to rescind his contract. I wouldn't advise that for a young player for their career because it could open up a whole host of legal issues. But anyway, I would love to have Marcos Leonardo. I think the kid's got what it takes. 20 years old, right? 20 years old? Or 20. And he's doing big things in Brazil already. We saw him score in 90+4, scored that penalty kick about a week ago. So he's got what it takes, man. This is someone that's compared to Lautaro Martinez, but truly you can't compare one player to another. I think that he's got his own style. He looks a little bit more loose, a little bit more forward thinking for me. Maybe like a 9.5 or a true 9, whereas I see Lautaro as a 10, really, a true 10. Sanchez is perfect. And yes, man, Danny Agger, legend. One of the best Danish defenders of all time. So speaking about Belotti, Sven brings up a good point here. Belotti's look great. That goal yesterday, precision. When's the last time we could say Belotti and precision in the same sentence? But I think with this preseason, I think he's got his head straight. He looks physically good, looks strong, he looks concentrated. I think this is a deal. I think this is a situation, a scenario which could work out much better for Roma compared to last season. So I'm really glad to see that. Liddy Channel says he's coming in from Washington, D.C. Liddy, do you go to, what is it, Four Courts? Four Courts, where Roma Club DC meets. By the way, if you're ever in DC, Roma Club DC is big. They have a good following. They have a good club set up there, organized. So on Sunday, as the season starts, also let me know what you're doing. What are your plans? What are you thinking? Where are you going to watch? Anywhere special? Roma Club New York, of course, will be going. I think I'll make a little image for people just so they know in the Northeast, or I should say in North America, where they can watch with official Roma clubs as well. And Leo brings up the point that maybe it was just a mental issue, a preparation one of concentration here for Belotti. And I believe that's changed. And I'm not just trying to, give you fluff here, but I think it looks like he may have turned the tide here. Chat says, hey, Wayne just joined in. Not sure if you discussed Paredes. If not, do you agree with the overall negativity of him within the fan base? I don't agree with the negativity. So Charonga, a couple of things that I put out here was that leader of PSG had the captain's armband after just 1 year, just won the World Cup. We'll have players who are going to work hard in front of him. We'll free him up to make, those long threaded passes from the defensive space into the attacking third. Is a Roma player in the past, knows what it takes, has a good personality. I think this is a move which Pinto hopefully executes with the apparently suspected departure of Matic, which is a big loss. But if you can get somebody like Paredes in, I can only say that looks like a great deal to me. I know that at Juventus, it didn't work out for him, and I think that's why there's negativity over it. But I would say overall, Juve had a tough time last season, and they were anything but refined. So plugging in a player on loan, maybe he didn't get a full preseason, whatever, the team was constantly in a fluctuating state. I think that Paredes could have really good conditions in Rome, given the midfield personnel around him, where he should be able to succeed. So I like the deal a lot. Nothing serious right now, Miss Purple. Nothing crazy about Marcos Leonardo, aside from what we saw last week. And Silves also brings up a good point here. Paredes and Dybala. Dybala gets another friend on the team, a countryman, and someone he just won gold with. Early morning in Thailand, 6 a.m. Nice. Thanks for joining, my friend. Thank you. Thanks for joining there. I'd love to see a sunset in Thailand. My imagination as an American of Thailand is what I see, through travel shows and stuff, and it just always looks incredible. So I'm sure it's awesome. The young fella Pagano. Let's talk about Pagano. Ricardo Pagano, 18 years old, and he had that assist for El Shaarawy to open up the scoring yesterday, and I think it was tremendous. Let me pull up his page here, Ricardo Pagano, and we look in transfer market. That's showing up on your computer, right? Yeah, there we go. Cool. Alrighty, so he's about, I think, 5'9", maybe 5'10", 18 years old. He's born just outside of Rome. He's from Roma's Primavera. And this is somebody who, like you see here, his main position, attacking midfielder. On top of Award, maybe this is somebody, a young player who could share minutes, somebody who can get in the mix and have a season like what Bove had last year and become an emerging young player, another one. So the, the way he plays, though, I will say for Pagano, is very attractive to me because I like players who are smart. I like intelligent guys who can pick out a pass, who see the play, architects of the game. These are the people who inspired me when I was young and I was watching football and trying to figure out how am I going to style my game. And I see in him somebody who could become someone who's really adored by the fans in time. If you remember Giannini, Il Principe, right? Another player from the 80s, early 90s that I didn't grow up watching, wasn't even alive yet, but love to watch in footage and archival stuff, right? Leo says Marcos Leonardo did not play today for Santos. Maybe a signal. Yeah, I think so. If not just for the sake of his career at Santos, like that doesn't look good. I know they don't want to sell him. Do you think we end up playing Karsdorp as a starter? Maybe. I wouldn't discount the fact that Karsdorp could still play a big role in this team. I think that he's patched things up with Mourinho. I think the biggest thing is he going to be able to regain fitness because he tore his meniscus, did he not? In the prime of his career, 28 years old, several years in Rome right now, knows what it takes, and he has the potential. I don't doubt that Karsdorp has what it takes to be a really strong player in Serie A at times, whether it's crossing. Defensively, he's been caught out a couple times, but that's typical of right wing backs. You know, right wing backs are never going to play like Paolo Maldini. It's just not how it goes. Flames, what's up? Coming in from Ghana. It's about 4 hours ahead. Okay, in Ghana, 11:44 p.m. Real late. Hopefully, you don't got to get up for school or work or anything super important. Vincenzo says DePaul, Marcos, and Donnarumma. Well, I tell you what, DePaul would have been major, but to get a player like DePaul would have been so financially difficult given Roma's financial fair play constraints. But you're talking about right there, man. You're talking about one of my favorite players. And even at Udinese, this guy did it, and he played much more forward than he does now. So in Atletico, I believe he plays a little deeper the way he does for Argentina. And I would have loved to have him, but what can you do? I would have loved it though. Thiago Pinto can give us a gift. That would be really cool. So we're talking about these 5 players. I think it's going to be Paredes. I think it's going to be Renato Sanchez. We are speaking about Marcos Leonardo. I'm hopeful for. And then we've also got maybe a center back. I've seen a couple names, maybe Demiral. Interesting. I rate Demiral. I think he's a good, strong center back. There's a reason why Juventus signed him and also one why he did well at Atalanta. And I'm not sure why Atalanta would be willing to get him to let him go. So not totally sure about that. But on top there, we've got another interesting player in Duvan Zapata. Now, last year, not so great for Duvan. 2 goals in Serie A, but had a bunch of injuries. Things I like about him: can play with his back to goal, works really hard for the team. Kind of the quintessential Mourinho number 9. A team player. At that Atalanta under Gasparini, man worked his socks off. And you know what? 2 seasons ago, he got a ton of goals. The season before that, a ton of goals. So he knows what to do. I think last season was just unfortunate for Duvan. Donnarumma will be playing for Juve. Maybe. We'll see what happens with that. Silv says, mid wingbacks complete with speed and creativity. Awara, Sanchez, Paredes, Christensen, Pagano, Bove, increased minutes. Karsdorp, Zalewski played further forward, and Salik. I hope Zalewski has a good season. I hope that he really improves upon what we saw last year. I want to see his growth. I'm anxious for that. The Jen says, can we get the 2020 Spinazzola back? I hope so. At this point, he's about 30 years old. I have seen him playing pretty good in preseason. He's cutting in a lot and taking a lot of shots. He looks confident. I think that he could. The problem with Spinazzola throughout his career has been fitness, but I do hope that if he can stay healthy, he's strong, he's doing a lot of work on the physio table, that he can, yes, at least be 80% of that 2020 player we saw. Also, Dejan is optimistic here. I like it. Could be like a Drogba signing. By the way, I met Drogba in real life about 7 years ago. It just came up on my Facebook. I had a fake interview with him. It's a long story. Drogba, by the way, is a massive individual. He is big, strong, and tall, and is not. He's built. He's jacked. Like, you would not want to play against this player. I felt like a little man talking to him. Maybe Marcos Leonardo, Zapata, Marcos Leonardo, Sanchez Paredes, Solé. That is the other center back that's being mentioned right now from Salzburg, correct? Solé, let me look him up. Red Bull. Yeah, from Red Bull Salzburg. Unfortunately, I don't remember him much, but when Roma played Salzburg in the Europa League, or was it Conference League? I'm getting confused. 6'4", 23 years old. Looks like he's an international. Let's see. Let's look a little bit about him and see what's going on here. So, born in France. And anything yet? No international caps for the first team, but is a French youth international, even for the U20 team. So, big player here. Interesting. I don't think a player like this comes cheap, but if he joined in 2020, he's on a 3-year contract or a 4-year contract. Maybe that could be impacting in his value is what I mean to say. Came up through the Laval Academy, played at Lyon. So good pedigree there of academies. And, the Red Bull structure is second to none, the way that they churn out talent. They know what they're doing in not just Salzburg, but also Leipzig and New Jersey. I've been to that. I used to work for Red Bull. Belotti, I trust, who will score double digits. Already scored in 3 preseason matches. Yeah, it's a good point. Can't wait to see El Shaarawy shine. Yes. Yeah, me too. He's going to have a good season, isn't he? I saw Drogba score versus Inter in 2009 at the Rose Bowl. Dude he is a unit. he's huge. Perfect mercato there. Yeah, that would be Elek and Elek. These are the names that he put forward, just so we see. And as much as things seem grim right now, in that there's a lot of holes that need to be filled, the next 5 to 6 days could be indicative of Roma's 2023-24 season. Okay. Roma defenders struggled last season against Zapata. Happy to have him on our side. Hey, Rocco. Mourinho could turn Duva into something more than we've seen. I like Paredes coming back. Me too. Sanchez fitness concerns me. And I think it always will. That's just something which is going to hang over his head. But keep our fingers crossed. And if he can only play half a season, then you still have an incredible player for those times that you play. And hopefully when he's out, if he is going to be out, it does allow players like Pagano, like Bove to get into the mix. And Paredes as well, right? No, Zapata far from official right now. Still says he likes, or there's interest in Jenks Mike Tresor, around 15 million. Let's see. I don't know where Roma is able to spend that type of money right now, but I guess the accountants would know better than I do. And of course, I would like to see Roma spend that cash, but financial fair play. I think there were maybe one more player in addition to Ibanez who Roma planned to sell that would have probably brought in about 40 million euros. So it's limiting. It's limiting right now when you have to work in parameters and you miss out on European football and everything else, which I mentioned. So that's where it gets pretty sticky. Okay. Let's take a look at what else is going on. I thought this was a really interesting take here, and it did quite well as far as engagement goes. Football Arena posed an opinion, I guess, a take. The difference between Guardiola and Mourinho is Mourinho can easily take this City side to the Champions League final too, but Guardiola can never take this Roma side to a European final. What do you think about that? I said I agree. I think Mourinho is a brilliant tournament manager. I think he's somebody who grinds out everything that there is, gets the last drop of blood out of the players, keeps them mentally sharp, as does Guardiola. But I think Guardiola is truly defined by his system. Does he innovate? You tell me. I'm sure there's Guardiola experts out there who will have their opinions on that. But that's what I thought. I went with Mourinho. Anyway, this one got a lot of attention here. Marco Verratti. Yeah, of course, Mourinho could use him, but then there's transfer fee. There's massive wages. Marco Verratti is a player who will probably go to Saudi Arabia, along with Neymar. And who else did I see today? Somebody also, I don't know, maybe it was those two, Verratti and Neymar. So the Travis Scott concert, the boys pulled up. By the way, there is maybe a leak today. If that's the black kit, we're supposed to take that as official from Adidas. Looked pretty cool. But since it's not official, I'm not going to go into it. This is sweet here. Caniggia, Argentinian player. Claudio Paul Caniggia, Roma Legends. Love that kit. This is, by the way, what is this? 1993, 1994. This kit collection. And those are just sharp. Everyone loves the Barilla logo there. I would love this full kit. I mean, those shorts are class. That's one to watch out for on eBay, is it not? Francesco in his first season. Good stuff. By the way, I hope you caught that interview that Jose gave to Corriere dello Sport. And yeah, there we've got her, Ibanez. Goodbye. So let's get a few comments in, guys. Throw some likes up there as well for me, please. And support the page. Subscribe if you haven't already. Set the alerts for whenever I stream too. This is great. We got over 30 people in here. It's Sunday night for me, almost 8 p.m. And I really appreciate everybody coming in. Okay, back to the comments. You could probably hear my daughter screaming in the background. She doing all right? Yeah. Cool. Okay. Rocco says, we need these transfers to come through desperately. Watching the team in preseason, painful. I hope so. 6 days, Rocco. 6 more days, and let's see what happens. I almost called you Marco. Where is Marco? Maybe sleeping. Okay. What about Zico, Patriot, Muriel? Muriel? No. For me, I go with the Zapata. Just for the sake of fitness, I think Zapata is much more of a Mourinho player. Whereas, I'm going to leave it at that. You don't like Saleh. Okay. Maybe tell me why. So it's been about upwards of 50 mil, but starting with Zaniolo. But the issue is that of the financial accounting years, like if it's in this season, if those sales are being included in the previous season, or if it's in this season, it gets a little weird with the accounting. I'm not an expert because I'm not totally accessed to that information that's not public record. So like we as fans, we know that Roma, there was a rumor, had to raise 30 million euros, right? But there was nothing that said that in stone. There was no website you could go to which certified that info. That just becomes like, I don't want to say it's more than a rumor, but it just becomes like this floated knowledge around social media. But truly, we don't know. Like, we don't have Roma's balance books. We're not in there in the meetings with UEFA. Can't wait for the content this season. Hell yeah, Zion. Let's do it. Has it? Joe, send it to me, please. And if you can, order me a size small. About Mourinho and Pep can't do much. Yeah. Almost, Zion. Almost. It's coming. Jose's last season. Well, this is the last year of his contract. This is Jose's 3rd year. So regardless if we think Mourinho will stay or not, or whatever that might be, this is the 3rd year, and there hasn't been any type of renewal. So Guardiola possesses the capability to sustain the top for multiple consecutive years. Interesting. So what's going on with Matic? We don't know. With Ren, there's a lot of different stories going on. I won't be one to spread rumors. I'm not going to get into it, but it looks like Paredes will be that replacement. Turkish League becoming the place where all ex-Roma players go to. Under went there today. Speaking of the Turkish League, that combo from Tadic to Dzeko was a thing of beauty. How Tadic went through world football with not being recognized as a top player baffles me. I went to Ajax 2018 to the stadium. I love Ajax. If I had to, I don't have a second team, but if I had to, it would be Ajax Amsterdam. And Tadic, above Ziyech or Neres, anybody who else was on the field, the players who impressed me most was the center. Daley Blind was incredible, and Tadic. And today he had a great assist to Dzeko, who scored in his first goal, his first game for, is it Besiktas? Who's he playing at now? What team was that? It's at Fenerbahce. Sorry. So Tadic and Dzeko together at Fenerbahce. That is, I would love to see some of those games, guys. What's up, Jay Dilla? Who are you looking to have a better year this season? That Belotti, I think El Shaarawy, and I think Zalewski. I think that those guys have it in them to rise up big time. Scheduled to be in Rome. Sweet. I hope maybe it's your first time to the Olympico. If so, you're going to have to keep us up to date on how that goes. This is going to be determined, again, by how the next 5 days goes. If Roma do not sign any of these players, I don't think it's fair to really count on Champions League football next year, given that Milan have gotten significantly stronger, even if Tonali is a major loss. Inter, stronger. Excellent midfield now. Juve, surely stronger. I think stronger. Napoli, still nothing's changed there. They lost Kim. I think they'll be fine. They're still going to be the Scudetto favorites, in my opinion. Atalanta, stronger, older. Although I don't know who's going to play center forward for them. If Zapata's out, if Højlund's out, like who's their next dude? Who's their number 9? That I'm a little confused about what their game plan is there so close to the season, but they've got quite a lot of money to recoup. Scamacca. What am I talking about? Of course it's Scamacca. Ignore what I said. Just cancel the previous 30 seconds. Yeah, Scamacca. They're going to be awesome. Anyway. Juve for sure. Stronger. Yeah, that's a good point. Juventus will not be in the Conference League as part of their deal with UEFA. They're going to be able to sit out on the Conference League, which will make them stronger in the league for sure because of fitness. So anyway, guys, we're a little over a half hour in. Thursday, for sure, we're going to be doing a live stream. You might see that in my page now. You should see that in my page. You can go in and set the alert for that. We're going to be doing a preview of Salernitana, what they've got going on, who are their key players, the moves that they made, the rest of the Serie A calendar, which I can give you an idea. Saturday is Frosinone Napoli at 12:30 for me, Empoli Verona, Genoa Fiorentina, and the other late game is Inter Monza with Inter at home and Fiorentina visiting Genoa. And I'm really intrigued to see Retegui. That's how we say it, right? Retegui, right? Okay. For Genoa, who's been trying some really unorthodox shots. I saw him try some back heel, I think, in a preseason. So you too, Jay Dilla. You too. Let's hope Bove, continues improving. I'd love to see that. I think he can be a force for the Azzurri. Absolutely. So, Rocco, I think you and I are both helpful in that. Dai Roma. My friends, if you haven't thrown a like, do me a favor. Let's talk soon. Okay. Ciao. End broadcast.